Everyone remembers the 2000 Baltimore Ravens. The defense, the violence, Ray Lewis turning Sundays into a body count. But almost nobody remembers this. That team went 5 straight games without scoring a touchdown. 5. In October, when the season was still being decided, the Ravens offense couldn't find the end zone. Not for a week, for a month. Brian Billick, hired to be an offensive genius, was watching his quarterback hand the season away, one interception at a time. And somewhere inside that collapse, something changed. Not the defense. The defense was already the most dominant unit the league had ever seen. The change happened on the other side of the ball. The question isn't whether the 2000 Ravens had the greatest defense in NFL history. That argument has been raging for years. So the real mystery is this. How did a team in freefall turn an offensive identity crisis into one of the most ruthless championship formulas the modern NFL has ever seen? How do you go from can't score a touchdown to one score is enough to win the game? Most people think the Ravens won despite their offense. That story isn't wrong, but it's incomplete. The truth is a lot stranger. They didn't win in spite of a broken offense. They won because of what that offense agreed to become. Let's start with what they actually were. Before October, before the drought, before Dilfer. The Ravens entered 2000 with a defense that didn't think about winning games. They thought about punishing people for showing up. Ray Lewis, Rod Woodson, Chris McAllister, Pete Bulware, Sam Adams, Tony Siragusa. That's not a defense, that's a hostage situation. Siragusa and Adams, together, somewhere around 700 pounds of interior line, formed the kind of wall that teams had to game plan around before they could game plan for anything else. They held opponents to 2.7 yards per carry that season. 2.7. The NFL record for a 16-game season. Still stands. But here's the thing most people miss about that defense. They weren't just trying to stop you. They were trying to break you. Rod Woodson talked about it openly. The whole mentality was, we're going to hit you in the first quarter, the second quarter, the third quarter, and then we're going to ask, can you take it in the fourth? Bengal Pro Bowl back Corey Dillon found out the answer in Week 4. Baltimore was already up big, and Dillon, one of the best running backs in the AFC, took shot after shot behind the line, went back to the sideline, and just waved it off. Done. Not injured, just done. A Pro Bowl back in his prime quit during a regular season game because the Ravens defense hit him enough times that continuing didn't seem worth it. That's not a scheme, that's a psychological operation. And offensively, going into 2000, the Ravens had Tony Banks at quarterback. Billick, who had been the offensive coordinator for a Vikings team that scored 556 points in 1998, had a plan. They were going to run the ball with Jamal Lewis. They were going to complement it with smart, efficient passing. Field position, ball control, let the defense do its job. Clean plan, one problem. Tony Banks kept handing the ball to the other team. Here's where October gets ugly. Week 5, the Ravens lose. Week 6, they lose again. Week 7, another loss. Somewhere in that 3-game stretch, they go 5 straight games without an offensive touchdown. They're running the ball, they're getting first downs, they're doing something, but they can't put the ball in the end zone. And Banks keeps making the kind of mistakes that make great defenses feel like they're playing against 2 opponents at once. Jeff Mitchell, their center, set it straight. It was brutal. The defense was holding the teams under 2 touchdowns a game, sometimes 1, sometimes 0, and the offense was giving the lead away anyway. And here's the part that should scare you a little. The defense didn't point fingers. Marvin Lewis, their defensive coordinator, was in that locker room during the drought demanding his defense find ways to score, telling them they had to do better. A defense holding opponents to historic lows was being asked to also solve the offensive problems. That's the DNA of that team. The defense didn't see itself as a separate unit. They saw themselves as the entire team. And that mentality is what kept the locker room from fracturing when it easily could have. But Billick had a decision to make. He was an offensive guy. His whole identity in the NFL was offense, and now the job in front of him was to look at his offense, look at his defense, and make a choice that went against everything he'd built his reputation on. He benched Tony Banks, brought in Trent Dilfer, a guy who'd been released by Tampa Bay, whose career was sliding, who had something to prove and nothing to lose. And then Billick sat Dilfer down and told him something that most quarterbacks would have rejected outright. You're not here to win games. You're here to not lose them. That sounds simple. In the NFL, where quarterbacks are judged by touchdowns and comebacks, that's a radical idea. That's a coach telling his quarterback to shrink, to disappear, to win by doing less. Most quarterbacks would have walked out of that room. Dilfer had a decision to make too. He could have pushed back. Quarterbacks don't usually take jobs where the job description is "don't screw it up." There's no glory in that. No contract leverage, no Pro Bowl appearance waiting on the other side. But Ray Lewis got to him first. The story goes that Lewis pulled Dilfer aside and told him, "You're the guy. If we all play together, we'll never be beat." And something about that, the simplicity of it, the conviction behind it, landed differently than a coach saying it. Because Lewis wasn't offering Dilfer a bigger role, he was offering him belonging. Dilfer took it. He said later that once he understood nobody can score on us, he accepted that the job was to manage the game. Win 3-0 if that's what it takes. Make sure we don't screw it up. Stop giving the defense extra possessions to defend. Stop making Ray Lewis's job harder. The offense didn't get better. They got disciplined. And that's a different thing entirely. Here's what that discipline looked like in practice. Kyle Richardson kept pinning opponents inside the 20. Matt Stover was automatic. So Billick built the offense around one idea. Move the ball just far enough. Get into Stover's range, take the 3 points, flip the field, then hand the game back to the defense. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't what anyone in Baltimore came to see, but it worked. By December, the Ravens had won 7 straight games. Their defense was allowing just 10.3 points per game, another record that still stands. And that offense had gone from "this might cost us the season" to a machine that protected the ball, controlled the clock, and never gave the defense extra work. They finished 12-4, won the AFC North, and then January started. The playoffs are where the myth gets complicated. Because if you only look at the box scores, the story looks simple. Ravens defense suffocates 3 teams in a row. Ravens win Super Bowl. Defense is the greatest ever. The end. But the story of the 2000 Ravens playoff run isn't just great defense wins games. It's about specific moments that changed the game's emotional temperature in the ways the final score never fully captures. Tennessee, divisional round. The Titans came in hot. They trolled the Ravens on the big screen before the game. They got the ball first and marched down the field. Opening drive, touchdown, like they were going to prove that the Ravens were just another opponent. Billick admitted later that he thought they were going to have to rethink everything. Then, Anthony Mitchell blocked a field goal and took it back 90 yards for a touchdown. Then, Ray Lewis intercepted a pass and took it 50 yards for another one. Just like that, the entire game changed. Not the scheme, not the personnel. 1 blocked kick and 1 pick six, and Tennessee went from "we can compete with these guys" to "how do we survive this?" The Ravens never allowed another offensive touchdown the rest of the postseason. Not in Tennessee, not in Oakland, not in Tampa. 112 minutes and 43 seconds of playoff football without allowing an offensive score. Oakland, AFC Championship. This was supposed to be the hardest game. Rich Gannon was playing some of the best football of his career. The Raiders had the black hole. The crowd was as hostile as anything in professional sports. The Ravens defense walked in, and Siragusa found a corner in the second quarter and hit him clean as Gannon crossed the line of scrimmage. Legal hit, full extension. Gannon left the game, and Peter Boulware said, immediately, watching from the field, "We're going to the Super Bowl. This thing is over." Not hoping, not believing, knowing. That level of certainty, built from months of destroying opponents, doesn't come from a playbook. It comes from a team that has hit enough people in enough high-pressure moments to understand exactly what they're capable of. Shannon Sharpe caught a 96-yard touchdown pass. The Ravens won by 16. Super Bowl 35, New York Giants. Before the game, Rod Woodson stood up and told the defense, "New York is not going to get across the 50. Not trash talk, a sincere goal." The Giants' best drive all night got them to the 29-yard line. Kerry Collins threw 4 interceptions. The only New York score came on a kickoff return. Think about what it took to get there. A locker room that almost fractured in October. A quarterback who accepted irrelevance so his teammates could be great. A coach who buried his identity to let a defense define him. Every scoreless Sunday. Every meeting where pride got swallowed. That's not a coincidence. That's a bill coming due. Final score, 34-7. Bull Ware called it the easiest game they played all year. And when Baltimore scored their first touchdown, Sam Adams looked around and said, "The game is over. That's all we needed." One score. They built an entire offensive philosophy around needing one score. And when they got it, it worked exactly like they said it would. Here's what this all actually means. The 2000 Ravens weren't a great defense dragging a broken offense to a championship. That's the story people tell because it's simpler. The real story is that a team in genuine crisis. 3 straight losses, 5 games without a touchdown. A coach whose entire reputation was built on offense made a choice most teams never make. They stopped trying to be something they weren't. Billick stopped chasing the offense that made him famous. Dilfer accepted a job most quarterbacks would reject. And the offense accepted its real role. Protection. Protect the ball. Protect the field position. Protect the defense's momentum. Play clean. Play disciplined. And trust that one score might be enough. Once the offense accepted that reality, the entire team locked into place. Special teams wasn't its own unit. The offense wasn't its own unit. Field position wasn't just strategy. It all became the same system. A blocked kick. A short field goal drive. 3 and out. Every piece feeding the same machine. That's what made the 2000 Ravens different. They didn't win by maximizing what they were good at. They won by eliminating the gaps everywhere else. When every part of a team commits to the same purpose, not stats, not recognition, not individual roles, something happens that's almost impossible to repeat. Corey Dillon felt it from the wrong side. Kerry Collins felt it with the whole country watching. And 24 years later, when people talk about the 2000 Ravens, they don't talk about the offense. They talk about fear. That's what Billick built when he stopped trying to be an offensive genius. He built a machine that made people afraid. If this video changed how you think about that team, subscribe. We break down the history, the strategy, and the stories that the highlight reels missed. And I want to know, do you think the 2000 Ravens are the greatest defense in NFL history? Or does someone else have a case? Drop it in the comments. We'll get into it. Next video, another championship team that was supposed to be something completely different. You're not gonna want to miss it.